Welcome to Rewild by Design, a podcast for women in midlife who are ready to burn the rule book, drop the good girl mask, and come home to who they really are. I'm your host, Marissa, a human design and Gene Keys mentor, and your guide in this wild woman era. Get ready for bold conversations, raw truths, and the kind of insights that'll shake you awake. Because midlife isn't the end of your story. It's the point where you finally get to write it your way. Welcome back to the podcast. It has been a hot minute. I have taken some time to just ground into my energy, enjoy the holidays, and slow down. It's winter here in the Northern Hemisphere, and I've just honestly felt like hibernating. What we're going to talk about today is getting back to basics. I wanted to do these next set of podcast episodes all about the basics of human design. Not from let's learn more information and just pile it more into our head, but from an embodiment perspective. Because once you understand the basics, then things can start to click into place. We're going to start with the types. And not in the usual, here's your type, good luck kind of way. But I want to talk about the lived experience of each type. The part of you that shows up in midlife when you have zero patience left for forcing yourself into those boxes that just don't fit anymore, or continuing to keep yourself small or stay consistent for the comfort of everybody else. We're not doing that anymore because so many women walk around with the same question, even if they maybe never say it out loud, but it's this script running in the background. Why does my energy work so differently than everybody else's? And again, I want to reframe that. It's not a personal flaw, right? We are all uniquely designed. We're not meant to be like each other and keep up with each other. Before we get into the meat of this episode, if you could do me a quick favor, go to wherever you're listening to podcasts and leave a review. Any 5-star review helps this message get to more women so they can drop that good girl mask and rewild their lives. I know it sounds like it's not much, but it is. And if you love this episode and you're watching it on YouTube, go ahead, give it a like and a thumbs up and subscribe for more. So let's get into what we're talking about by type. I don't want to bore you with the nitty-gritty details because that's not my style. I just want to reframe your human design type. It's based on your birth. Human design is the study of how we're all different. So this isn't a vibe, this isn't a personality trait, this isn't a test that you can take online to tell you who you are. This is describing your essence, and it describes mechanically how your aura functions and operates. And take it with a grain of salt. Everything that I say, I invite you to use your own inner authority, and again, we'll be doing another episode on that, but use your own inner authority to decide if this is correct for you. So we have the 5 energy types. Your type and your energy and how your soul chose this configuration in this lifetime can answer questions like, how do I best move through life without burning myself out? How does my internal system create momentum? And what drains me faster than anything else? And what actually supports me? Simple questions. And these all come from your chart structure. The easiest way that I like to tell people how your type is formed is based on what is defined and connected inside your human design chart. And if you haven't already grabbed your chart, you can get it for free at Rewild by Design. You can go ahead and get it for free, as well as my free energy snapshot audio, which is a quick 10-minute audio all about your type. This will be really supportive. If you want to pause this episode, go grab your chart and come on back and we'll talk a little bit more about it. Your type is shaped by the energy that is consistent in your chart. This is why two women can have the exact same life on paper, but their experiences are completely different in their bodies. And midlife is this season where these differences, we can't ignore them anymore. They become undeniable. Your system stops tolerating the bullshit that it used to tolerate. We're going to go type by type. So if you want to listen, if you have other types in your life, feel free. You can scroll through to get to your specific type. But I think it's really supportive to learn a little bit about each of the types. So we're going to talk about the basics of each type, what can maybe trip you up, and what changes could happen in your life when you stop forcing yourself to fit in with everybody else. We're going to talk about generators first. Now, generators, by definition, have a sacral center defined. That is the motor. That is a generator, right? That's why they're called generators. And this is your sacral center, is your life force energy. So all generators have this innate, consistent access to internal life force energy. But that doesn't mean you are built to do all the things all the time, or just to be busy for the sake of being busy. It does mean that your energy will come online and your body will tell you in response to something from your external environment. So when you engage in something that feels like a true yes, that's when you know, that's your ping, your signal that something's working. And if you don't get that sacral yes, it could be a clue that it's a no or it's a not right now. So the thing that I tell generators, no matter, what your profile lines are, what your authority is, you are designed to respond. So the most supportive thing that you could do is trusting that sacral, listening to what your sacral response has to say. And as women, we have been so conditioned away from our trusting our bodies and really just thinking with this logical mind. But really, everyone is meant to make decisions from their body. And yours as a generator is through your sacral. And waiting to respond is not passive. All right, let's clear that up. Waiting to respond is an active process because you are not just sitting around with your feet up eating bonbons, although that could be supportive too at some points, but it is allowing life to show you what you have energy for. I'm going to say that again. It's allowing life to show you what you have energy for. And then your job is to sit back and listen and trust that. So, the pattern that can drain you the most generators were praised for being the dependable, responsible one. So, you learn to say yes quickly. You learn to just power through, even if you don't really want that thing. And you learn to carry these things that aren't really yours. But midlife hits, and suddenly the things that you used to tolerate feel completely unbearable. And this isn't being dramatic. It's because your energy is finally loud enough and saying, I can't keep feeling like this. I can't keep doing this. So common generator drains can include saying yes to be helpful, so being a people pleaser, staying in work that feels completely soul-sucking and lifeless, overcommitting out of habit, trying to be the reliable, steady, calm presence for everyone, or doing things that you don't really like because it's easier than disappointing someone else. And we've got themes of people pleasing here. But when a generator starts living from their sacral response, everything starts to get a little bit easier. I'm not saying life is ever going to be easy, but things get simpler, like the knots untangle. You stop agreeing to doing things that you're going to resent later. You stop confusing being needed with being fulfilled. You stop forcing yourself to like the things that you've outgrown. And the generator who is in her power is not running on guilt and shame. She's running on desire. So midlife for generators often becomes like one big question. What do I want now? Not what you can manage, not what makes everybody else uncomfortable in their lives, but what do I want? So sit with that question if you're a generator. Now on to my manifesting generator friends. And for whatever reason, as a projector, I am just surrounded by Manny-Gens, which I love. So manifesting generators, like generators, have a defined sacral center, but you're a hybrid because you also have one or more of the motor centers. Again, motor centers are things that give energy. One or more motor centers connected to the throat. So that could be the sacral center directly to the throat. It could be the will center is a motor center. The solar plexus is a motor center. And the root center is a motor center. So one or more of those connected to the throat along with a defined sacral center. So you have that generator engine plus the ability to move quickly and powerfully once your body is on board. MGs, you are designed to respond first and then act. I know sometimes I hear in the online human design community where manifesting generators are told, well, you can manifest whatever you want. You can just go out and initiate. No, boo. This is about, at your core, you have a defined sacral for a reason. You are here to respond. But like generators, manifesting generators can fall into these patterns that quickly drain you. And it might take like more of a slow burn as opposed to our undefined sacral types, but MGs often get criticized very early. Just slow down. Pick one thing. Why can't you just choose one thing and stick with it? Or finish what you started? Or can't you just stop changing your mind? And I know as a projector mom of 2 manifesting generators and married to a manifesting generator, I know I find myself in those like shadow patterns and those like conditioning. And I have to pause and reflect and say, is this really how I want to condition my children? So anyway, getting back to the MGs. So when you constantly hear these criticisms, and whether they're well-meaning or not, you learn to hold yourself back. Or you rebel against them and move so fast that you skip the parts that your body actually needed. And common manifesting generator drains can look like just forcing yourself into a linear path or a straight line when that's not what you're built for. Or staying in something long after the energy has left. Over explaining the pivots that you make, or trying to prove that you can be consistent, or just saying yes to too many things because you're so excited and then you feel trapped by them. But what changes when you start honoring your design and your unique blueprint is that an MG has the power inside to give herself permission to evolve as it fits. You can love something deeply and still outgrow it. You can start something and realize it's not for you. Or maybe it was just a project that you needed to burn off some excess energy. And you can pivot without rationalizing it or seeing that it's a character flaw. Midlife is often the time where I see MGs finally stop trying to understand and start actually trusting their unique pace in the world. Now we're going to move on to our projector friends. Projectors have an undefined sacral and no motor center to the throat. That is the configuration in your chart is what makes you a projector. So your energy is not built like a generator's for constant output. The gift of a projector is in your perception and how you see things. It's because you see patterns and people and systems differently than the other 70% of the world. Actually, 80% of the world, sorry. And you notice what's off in this field long before anyone else can. So projector energy works best in these focused, efficient bursts with real deep rest in between. And that's hard because we're swimming in this sea of sacral energy that says rest is lazy. You have to earn your rest. But let's rewrite that narrative as rest is essential, especially for undefined sacrals. And again, as a projector, you probably grew up surrounded with sacral energy. So you just learned by observing that you have to keep up. You pushed past your limits. You run on adrenaline pressure. You overgive and then just crash. Common projector drains look like long work days without any recovery, being the emotional manager for everybody around you, giving guidance to people who are not really open to receiving it, so it really falls on deaf ears, and trying to prove your worth by doing more, or living environments that are too chaotic, too demanding, too loud, too fast, and not honoring that focused, efficient energy of yours. But what changes when you honor your design as a projector is that you understand louder does not equal more powerful. Being recognized is where your power lies. Let's look at the analogy of a lighthouse. The lighthouse doesn't go around the harbor chasing boats around saying, look at me, I have the light, I'm going to save you. No. The lighthouse sits on the rock, sits on the cliff, sits wherever, stationary, and just shines their fucking light. And just trusts that the boats will find their way with that light. So, when the right people see you as a projector, as an aligned projector, you stop forcing. You're going to wait to be invited by the right people. And just like a generator, I'm going to say waiting is not passive, because every design out there has to wait for something. We all wait. I have a sticker that I used to make that said, all of us are designed to wait. But waiting as a projector is not passive. In this waiting period, you're going to hone your craft. What are you really curious about? What do you love? Get really fucking good at it, because when you stop chasing and you start leading in a way that actually fits you and your design, you become unstoppable. People palpably can feel the difference between a bitter and burned out projector and a projector who is stepping into her power and just knows that the right people will find her and her advice will get taken and will change and impact other people's lives. So midlife for projectors often becomes this time where there are some non-negotiables. I will not keep burning myself to the ground to be accepted or loved. Okay, number one. And that in itself I think is the biggest lesson for projectors is starting with that self-recognition. So if you're a projector and you only take one thing from today, is working on that self-love and that self-recognition. So moving on to our manifestor friends. You're only about 9% of the population. So manifestors, like projectors, have an undefined sacral. So more fluid access to that life force energy. But different from a projector is that you have one or more motor centers, not the sacral, connected to the throat. So either the ego, the root center, or the emotional solar plexus can be connected to the throat along with an undefined sacral. Manifestors are built to initiate. You're not here to respond like generators. You move from an internal urge. You have this nonverbal creative flow that you can tap into to God, universe, source, and the higher power of your own understanding. You don't need to wait for consensus. You don't need to phone a friend. The most practical skill for a manifestor, even though you can move really quickly, is learning to inform people around you. And informing is not asking for permission. Let's get that out of our head. Informing is literally clearing the field so you can do what you need to do, or you can get the resources to support you in that. Because having an undefined sacral just means that you're not built for constant output. You're here to initiate things, to lead the rest of us into something innovative, creative, totally freaking wicked. Now, the patterns that can drain a manifestor most, number one, being controlled. The manifestor aura is so powerful that it can be intimidating for people who aren't ready for that level of energy and that impact. So a lot of times, manifestor children get controlled and suppressed really early on, being told, why are you so intense? Stop doing that. Or who do you think you are? Or you need to explain yourself. You can't just go off and do that. When in reality, manifestors, that's what they're here for. Maybe they just missed the informing step. So you learn as a manifestor to hold back your urges, to really pull back the throttle on that creative energy that you have. And you learn to shrink yourself to avoid that conflict. You over-explain every decision, or again, phone a friend, asking permission, or living in relationships that cost you more than they give you, and feeling guilty for needing this independence and alone time when that's exactly what your design needs. Or you just suppress your urges until you numb out, or you end up angry all the time, or it manifests into a physical dis-ease. A lot of manifestors who have suppressed their creative urges and suppressed their natural anger, which is a signpost just telling us where we're going. I've seen them a lot with autoimmune conditions or diseases later in life where they completely burn out by their 30s or 40s. But what changes as a manifestor when you start honoring your design is you thrive when you stop asking the world to validate your instincts. You just move with informing, and that resistance is not yours to hold. The resistance is other people's. You are not responsible for other people's feelings. You can be kind and compassionate. You don't have to be a real jackass about it, but you can know that other people's feelings about what you're doing are none of your business. So midlife for manifestors who finally step into their power is the time when they stop negotiating with everyone else's comfort and finally choose their own freedom. And that I want you to sit with that. So finally choosing your own freedom. What does that mean to you? And last but certainly not least, and if you're a reflector, please leave a comment, send me an email. I want to know, because I know you're only 1% of the population, but you are one of the most powerful designs that we have, because you are a lunar being, not a solar being. Lunar being meaning you have all undefined centers. Your rhythms sync up with the moon cycles, because the moon will sample all 64 gates in its 28-day cycle. Reflectors are sensitive in the most intelligent ways, not overly sensitive in that way that we've all been conditioned that sensitivity is a weakness, but sensitivity for reflectors means that you sample your environment. You sample what's going on in the field, and your energy changes and is, again, fluid based on who and what you're around. This is why the wrong people or the wrong job, the wrong spaces can totally flatline you. A lot of times I have talked with reflectors who have been told that, again, they're too sensitive. So you toughened up. You tried to be consistent. You put these masks on and you tried to pick a fixed identity when you're here to be really fluid in your identity. Common drains for reflectors can look like staying in environments that feel heavy and draining, or absorbing everyone else's emotions instead of just noticing them. Or it could look as like rushing your decisions or allowing people to rush your process, when really these big decisions take a full lunar cycle. Or a lot of reflectors, they lose themselves in relationships and get disappointed because they see the potential in these partners, but the people never live up to that potential. So it can really drain you very quickly when you're not in those right spaces. But as a reflector, what changes when you honor your design is that you thrive when you curate the right environment for you. The right spaces will bring you back to life. They will feed you energy. The right people will feel good. You will reflect back like a barometer the health of your community. So midlife for reflectors often becomes a hard line, right? If it feels toxic in my body, I am done pretending it's fine. So sit with that for a minute. As we wrap up this episode, we've talked about all 5 types. If you take nothing else from this episode, I invite you to take this. Your energy is not meant to be like everybody else's. You are a unique individual who chose this design for a reason. And you're not here to keep up with everybody else. You're not here to fit in like another cog in the wheel. You're here to honor your unique identity, honor who you are becoming, and live from a place of relentless authenticity. And if you want some support in this deconditioning process, shedding all of these roles and identities that no longer fit, I invite you to check out my Energy Snapshot audio. This is your free human design chart and a 10-minute audio all about your human design type. So if you're newish to human design, or you'd like my perspective and you love hearing my voice, you can go ahead and check that out for free. I'll link it in the show notes. The other way that you can, if you want to dive deeper into your design, like your specific energy, not just your type, but maybe you want to know about your channels, your gates, your incarnation cross, your centers, your profile, that's all housed within my digital human design reading called Decode Your Design. It is over 60 pages. It is this like self-paced resource that you can come back to over and over again to deepen your embodiment of your design. So this is not something that you read once and be like, oh, this is nice, thanks. This is for the integration. Go ahead and check that out. And the last way that I want to invite that if you're the woman who knows she's meant for bigger things in life and you're tired of putting your desires on the back burner, I have a 1-week human design immersion called The Pivot. This is a deep dive one-on-one session with me along with 7 days of voice support where we go through what is changing. Like, what is your incarnation cross calling you forward? What patterns are you done with? And then what are some steps that you can take along this new path? So again, that's The Pivot. I will link it in the show notes as well. And if you loved this episode, please leave a review, put a comment down below, send it to a friend who needs it. But that is it for today, and I trust you got exactly what you needed.
Well, that's it for this episode of Rewild by Design. I trust that you got what you needed here today, and just remember, you don't need another checklist. You need your own voice back. So go out, live a little louder, a little freer, and a hell of a lot more like yourself.